Hello everyone, welcome you all to the series of MATLAB tutorial. Here we are talking about MATLAB loops. In the last session, we have covered for loop, while loop and break statement. Now time for MATLAB continue statement in the loop. We will begin by quick recap on MATLAB loops. Then we will learn continue statement flow diagram. Then why continue statement syntax. And finally, as usual, for your better understanding, I'm gonna keep this session mixed with the theory part along with the live demonstration of the MATLAB scripting examples. Let's start. There may be a situation when you need to execute a block of code several number of times. In general, statements are executed sequentially. The first statement in a function is executed first, followed by the second, and so on. Programming languages provide various control structures that allow for more complicated execution paths. A loop statement allows us to execute a statement or group of statements multiple times. And here is the general form of the MATLAB loop statement. Let's assume the program is executing sequentially and it reached to the specific condition. And once the condition is true, then it start executing the statements or the conditional code written just next to that condition. And if the control again come back to check the condition, and if again the condition is true, then the loop continuously runs. And this is how the loop works. But as soon as the condition become false, then the loop exits. And this is how the MATLAB loop works. Now let's learn about MATLAB continue statement. In MATLAB, the continue statement is used to skip the current iteration of a loop and immediately start the next iteration. Continue statement can be particularly useful when you want to skip over certain values or conditions within a loop without breaking out the loop entirely. Continue passes the control to the next iteration of a for loop or a while loop. It skips any remaining statement in the body of the loop for a current iteration and the program continue execution from the next iteration. Now let's learn continuous statement flow diagram, how exactly the flow works in the continuous statement. Programming language provides various control structures that allow for more complicated execution paths. There may be a situation when you need to execute a block of code several number of times, but it may sometimes needed to skip the remaining instruction in the current iteration of a for loop or a while loop and pass a control to the next iteration, and that's the possible with continue statement. So here we are started with program, and the programming is executing the statements or the conditional code, and then again it reached to the condition, and if the condition is true, then again it start executing the statements or conditional code which are written once the condition made true. And if until the condition is true, the loop continuously remains in the same path and it executes the statements or the conditional codes. But when the condition becomes false, then the loop exit. But when a continuous statement is encountered, it passes the control to the next iteration of a for or a while loop. It skips any remaining statement in the body of the loop for a current iteration. The program continues execution from the next iteration. Continue applies only to the body of the loop where it is called. In nested loops, continue skips remaining statements only in the body of the loop in which it occurs. And this is how the general flow of the continue statement. But the still question is there, why we need continue statement in a MATLAB? The continue statement in a MATLAB is used to skip the remaining instructions in the current iteration of a for loop or while loop and pass the control to the next iteration. This can be particularly useful in the scenario where you want to bypass certain conditions or steps within a loop without terminating the loop entirely. And here are a few reasons to use continue statement in a MATLAB. The first one is efficiency. It helps in skipping unnecessary computations or operations when certain conditions are met. The second one is a clarity. It makes the code cleaner and easier to read by avoiding nested if statements. Control. It provides the more control over the flow of the loop, allowing you to handle specific cases differently. Handling exceptions. In some cases, you might want to skip the rest of the code in the loop if an exception occurs or if a certain condition is met. Simplifying code. Using continue can make your code more readable and easier to maintain by avoiding nested if statements. Improve code readability. Clearly indicate that certain code blocks should be skipped under the specific conditions, and that's possible using the continue statement. And the last is which allows to skip unnecessary competitions. It skips the rest of the code in the current iteration to improve the performance. And these are the reason which triggers to use the continue statement in the MATLAB. Now let's learn about the syntax, how continue statement works in the MATLAB, and we are starting with the basic syntax with the for loop. So the same syntax which we used in the for loop, we are starting with the for, where we are defining the variable index, starting with the start value and the end value, and then we write the code to execute. And if we are checking the specific condition, and on that condition, if we write the continue statement, it's very simple. Continue is the keyword. That is why it is in the blue color. And if you use the semicolon, then actually it helps to skip the current iteration of a loop. So, and then as usual, we need to end the if, and at the end, we have to end the for loop as well. But before you ending the for loop, even we can write the statements which we want to execute if the condition is not true, right? So what happens when you enter into the if and you execute the continue, it comes out from the if, and this is how it works. So here, index is basically in the loop control variable, start and end value is basically the initial and the maximum value of the index in the for loop, and the continue is the keyword is used to skip the current iteration of the loop and immediately start the next iteration. Now the basic syntax with while loop. And as usual, we are using the while loop syntax. We are starting with the keyword, then we will write the condition, and then whatever the statement or the code we want to execute if the condition is true. If we are using some specific condition, and if we are using the if, and if we write the condition, and if that condition is true, then we enter into the if loop. But inside that, if we write the continue keyword or the continue statement, then again it skips the current iteration of a loop. And at the end, we have to end the while loop as well. And this is how the syntax works. So here, again, condition is basically the loop runs as long as this condition is true. And once we write the keyword continue, that is the continue statement, the continue statement is used to skip the current iteration of the loop and immediately start the next iteration. Now time for learning some MATLAB examples of the continue statement along with the while loop and the for loop to help you to understand their functionality. So let's jump to the MATLAB. So here we will start with the continue statement within the for loop, and I have created the program to save your time. So let me open that program. So here the script which is already developed to save your time. And I'm just starting with the two simple examples using a for loop to understand the use case of this continue statement. And the first example is skipping an even number. The logic I written here to skip the even number and display the odd numbers basically. And in this example, the loop will display only odd numbers from the 1 to 10. And here is the normal syntax for the for loop. I started with the for keyword. I is the index and starting with initial value 1 and the end value is 10. If I have not mentioned the step size, by default, it will increment by 1. And that we have learned in the for loop. So this I will, on each iteration, I will increment by 1. So it will start with 1, 2, and that way 3, 4. Subsequently, it will reach to the 10. And once it will reach to 10, it will stop executing this for loop and end the for loop. Immediately after this, I put the statement that is if mod I comma 2. That means I'm checking the remainder is equal to 0. And this is the logic which checks actually for the even number. And if the even number is there, then what I'm gonna do, I'm using this continue statement, which skip this even numbers. When the condition is true, then it skips. So for each iteration, it will check once the number is even, it will skip. And if the number is odd, it will accordingly display. Now let's see how it works. So I just gonna run this section, control and enter, and you see here the result. So here in the result, we got the value started from 1, then it skipped 2, then it skipped 4, then it skipped 6, skipped 8. So even numbers are skipped and the odd numbers are actually displayed here. So though the condition is met here, it goes inside here, but it skips that. It doesn't execute the statement which are written immediately after this if statement. So it is not displaying that value actually, though it is made. Another example here I created for the skipping the specific number. And in this example, the loop will display the number from 1 to 10 and it is skipping the number which are, I have chosen that numbers as 3 and 7. And here I'm choosing that numbers actually 3 and 7. I want to skip and I want to display the rest numbers. So let me clear screen and let me run this section. So you will get the number starting from 1 to 10, but the 3 and 7 will be skipped out of that. So here if you see result, if I scroll up, we have started with 1, 2, but as soon as 3, this condition is met, what happened? It skipped the value of this 3. So you are not allowed to display that value and the control go back to the loop. Then loop in I index was incremented by 4. This condition is false. The 4 is displayed here then. Continue statement, what actually doing here? Once that continued statement get executed, it skip everything. It comes out and even not allowing to display this. So it controls coming back to the checking the conditions for the for loop. And that is the does it reach to the final value or not. And again it check for 4, goes for 5 or 6, and when it reach to 7, again this condition made true. Inside this continue statement, it will skip everything and it will again start executing from the beginning. And so it will check for the 8 and the 8 will get displayed here. So you will get 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, skipping 3 and 7. Very simple example which could make you understand how the continue statement works in the loop. And this example illustrate how the continue statement can be used to control the flow of the loops effectively. Now time for looking continue statement use case in the while loop. So here the program already created, script is already created, and I'm gonna use the same examples which are used in the for loop with the continue statement, that is skipping even numbers and skipping specific numbers. So here the logic is different. We need to add little more sentences to increment this index value, because in the for loop we have that flexibility that you can put the step size as well as you can choose for default step size for the indexing. But in the while loop, we don't have that facility to write the indexing or the initial value and the last value. We just have the facility to write the condition just next to the while. So condition is here. I is the variable. I'm checking that variable should be less than or equal to 10. Once this will reach to 10, the while loop will get terminated automatically. Here the logic is written. If the number is even, I'm checking the remainder 0. Then I'm incrementing this I. And then what I'm doing, I'm using the continue statement. Once this condition made true, I'm gonna skip the even number Okay, so this logic will not display, it will come here. Why this I is equal to I plus 1 written here as well as written here? This is how you need to understand how the continue statement work. Let's start from the beginning. If the loop is started, initially I would be 1 because we have declared I. So I comma 2 means it will check the remainder. The remainder would be 1. So this condition will not meet. So we will not enter here. That means we will come here and we will display 1. So initially we will get 1. But immediately we are incrementing that value by 1. That means now the I is reached to the 2. Now we reached here. While loop again check does this 2 is lesser than equal to 10? Yes. Then it will come here. Then the 2 comma 2 and then it will check the remainder is 0. Yes. Now the condition is true. But again what I'm doing here I is equal to I plus 1. That means now I is reached 3. Why? That you will understand here. Once this condition is true, inside this I have returned continue. Because of this, what will happen? It will skip the even number. That means we reach to the 2 and 2 is a even number. Because of this continue statement use case here, it will enter here actually. It will not display this I, it will not display, even not increment the I. To have the incremented value next time, I'm using this I is equal to I plus 1 here also. Once the continue statement got executed, in that case, we need to increment this I, and that is the reason the I is used here. So this is why the I is used, and this is how the continue statement works. It actually skip everything and start looking for the next condition on the main loop actually. So that's what it is checking here. Whatever the value incremented by I is less than or equal to 10 or not. So here we have reached. So let's run this section and check the result. So here we are getting result 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So this is skipping even numbers. And if I write the logic this way, I wanted to check the odd numbers, then it will skip the odd numbers basically. So let's run. You can see that 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 are the even number displayed and it skipped the odd number. So this is how you can use the example the way you want. The another example is skipping the specific values. So here I'm gonna skip the value 3 and 7. Same, starting with the declaration of initial value of the indexing. Here I'm checking the condition. I want that variable should be lesser than equal to 10. And here I'm checking the specific number that 3 and 7. If any of three, if the I made that condition or this condition is true, then I'm going inside incrementing that I. And why incrementing I here? Because once the continue statement will got executed, we are not going to execute this. Even the control will not come here, control will not come here. For the next iteration, we should have the incremented value. To run this loop continuously, I'm incrementing this I here as well. So very simple. If I clear the screen and run this section, you can see the result here. It started with 1, 2, right? 1, 2, and it skipped 3, 4, 5, 6, and it skipped 7, and we got the result 8, 9, 10. So here we have got these numbers are skipped. I can check another number also. Let me do this way. 9 and 10 I will skip. Let me run this section. Control Enter. So you can see the result here. You got the 1, 2. It started here. The second execution started here 1. You can see in the command window results 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this example again illustrate how the continue statement can be used to control the flow of loop effectively. Do you have a specific scenario in your mind where you want to use the continue statement? Feel free to try these examples in MATLAB and let me know if you have any question or need further assistance. After watching this video, I'm sure that you understood what is MATLAB Continue Statement and how it works with for loop as well as with the while loop. If you really like this session, then please give this video a thumbs up. To watch more videos like this one, please consider subscribing. Once you hit subscribe button, you're gonna get the notification anytime few contents like that comes out. And lastly, If you have any queries on this topic you want to answer me, leave me a comments below. I read them all. That's all I have for you today. Hope you enjoyed and hope to see you next time. Bye bye.